Hi. Oh, what
Hello,
happened?
hello. I don't know. There you are. There you are. How
Hey,
are
you got
you?
your glasses. I'm good.
What? Say that again. What
You've
I
got your
got?
glasses on.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Listen, I need to see what I'm doing. I can't. I mean, I don't actually. I don't need them, but everything's a little blurry, especially later in the day as I get older.
Noted.
Four score 50 year ago. You can use all this stuff on the edits.
Oh, that's funny.
Takeouts from Maddie.
I
Four
know.
50 year ago. Now you
I think
really know.
you're not that old.
Yeah, yeah. So I keep telling myself. Well, it's good to see you. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You look great. Look at you all rosy. You look great.
Thank you. It's my professional setting. I'm not just in like training uniform.
Yes, yeah, me too. When people see me not in training gear, they're always surprised.
So I think I started this straight on record, but I can like
Yes, it's
if you
fine.
want if you want to just chat for a bit, or we can just leave
No,
it.
I mean you
Now,
can leave it. You can go in as ever you like. You can splice it. You're probably going to be splicing it a few different ways anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. And no
okay.
point stop. You just you're going to have to do some edits for sure. So it'll be fine. But I mean the whole thing should be recorded as one piece. But whenever we start, and then we can go from there.
All right. Well, fabulous. We're gonna
Yeah.
do a traditional recording style because I do record everything.
Yes, I do. I believe in that stuff too. Can you hear me okay? Quality's okay.
Yeah.
I got my earbud in. I just want to make sure you can hear me good. Hopefully we don't get interrupted by my son coming home, but we'll see. I hope it doesn't come barging in, but teenagers sometimes don't listen. So
Okay, it'll be part of the process, and you can
yes,
hear
it
me.
will. Yeah, you're good. You're good. I can hear you good.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I'm just using the computer.
Yeah, I've got time wise, I've got a good 45 minutes, so we're good. I got to leave around just before 4:30. I got to get to class that I got to teach at 5.
Perfect. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
keep
so I got a good
up.
time. Yeah, yeah, well, but that'll be great amount of time. So
All right. Well, shall we jump in?
yes, jump right in. Ask me your questions. I mean,
All right.
introduce it. Ask me your questions, whatever you want.
All right, I'm going to jump in. So, I'm Elizabeth Stein of Belly and Body Care. I have a holistic hands on practice in Roswell, Georgia, with intuitive coaching, specialized body care. And my today's guest is Emmanuel Manolakakis, if I got your last name right.
It's good. It's close. Manolakakis, but you did it great. You did it fine. It's one of those. It's hard to nail it first time, but you came real close.
Okay, you give us the Greek accent, so the proper pronunciation. And Emmanuel is from Toronto, Canada, born and bred, and has been a martial artist, an athlete, and a coach and mentor and teacher for over 25 years. He runs
Mhm.
a school named Fight Club, also in Toronto, Canada. And if you would like to connect more with Emmanuel, you can go to www.fight-club.ca. I'm sure he'd be happy to connect with you. And I have actually not known you for very long, Emmanuel. I met you February of this year
Mhm.
at a Systema seminar. And
Mhm.
for those that don't know, Systema is a Russian martial arts. It's used quite specifically by the special forces, hundreds of years old. And the way I like to describe Systema for people that don't know is it reminds me of if Jesus were a kung fu master and threw in some circus and dance. That's what Systema is to me.
Nice. Uh, I love how we all see it in our own ways in our minds, how we relate to what system is. And I heard so many people express it in so many different ways. It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and so its emphasis is on freedom of movement, breathing, and structure. And actually, Fight Club, your focus is on Systema training for
Yes,
adults.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but
yeah,
you're a master of many arts, but that's what
yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of different martial arts. I stopped in 93 when I started Systema. You know, you go around after a while trying many different arts, and then one just feels like home. And you're just like, yeah, I love the creativity and the breadth of topics that we study. Like, there's just such a wide range of topics that we study. And I said, I that's why what attracted me to it is that there's punching, there's kicking, there's grabbing, there's health work, there's massage, there's weapons, there's tactical, there's military, there's civilian, there's all these different ways. And there just seemed to be so much there to keep you um engaged for a lifetime. Like it felt like something I could do for a long time, right? Rather than just while I was a competitive, like, as you could come to know martials in a competitive aspect, right? It seemed like it had a lot of breadth, a lot of depth, a lot of width, and it just seemed like a place I'd felt like home.
Nice. And that kind of brings me to the today's topic of why I wanted to do the interview is for me, Systema has such a focus on peace and like kind of that internal balance and calm. And actually at that first seminar where I met you, you had mentioned to me, protect your peace. And like that's like the one nugget. I mean, I took a lot of things from that seminar, but that nugget, because I'm from the States, and so in the States, in the school system, there's just this huge emphasis in history of like the revolution, the abolition of slavery, democracy. So like there's this real like kind of beating into us as like an American citizen of like peace and like military and like there's this like external force that's bringing like peace to us. And so when you said like protect your peace in that class, I'm like, wait, whoa, wait a minute. This isn't like just me. I mean, even though it's sort of a maybe a little bit of a military with like the martial arts side of it, even though it's not military, um, it just got me thinking about kind of like from that macro version of like history and externalized to sort of the micro version of like home life and internal emotional and mental states. And so that's what I'm really hoping to get with this talk today is love to hear your wisdom because that was coming from you, and then just sort of bringing it down into like the day-to-day civilian life and like why is that topic important and what does that mean in just day-to-day living.
Okay, well, there's many angles to the idea of peace, right? But let's maybe make some assumptions then and come to some agreements of what peace is. So peace is not just a word. It's like I believe I posted it a while ago. Peace is not just the absence of chaos, right? It's much more than that. When people are at peace, they behave more like themselves. They behave more like how they're comfortably supposed to be. That's a deep thing. So let's say I'm an athlete, okay, and watch athletes protect their peace. So they're going into a stadium. There is many people there to watch them, screaming fans, uh, banners, coaches, lights, bells and whistles, and they don't see any of that. I never did. I played in those areas. I never did. I All those people disappeared. They were there, but you could tune them out. I I needed to focus, and I needed to be um, calm enough to be able to understand what I needed to get done that day. So there is a piece to that thing, and you have to be able to find it amongst chaos, amongst all the noise. You have to be able to find it. So athletes will protect their peace in many ways. Some of them will come into the stadium at the last possible moment. Others will put on a headphone, they'll put on a hoodie, they'll move in such a way that they don't look at the crowd. They do different things to prepare themselves. And for as long as I've been an athlete, I've seen such a wide array of the way people protect that peace, right? Now, that's one thing. So from athletics, you've seen it. I love watching like sprinters, especially in the Olympics. How they're everybody is trying to relax at that moment. Like when there's serious championships, games, certainly nobody is saying jack me up. Like everybody's just trying to calm down. Like there's just too much emotion, too much energy. You need to be able to siphon that off to bring yourself to a place where you can perform at your best, right? So good athletes have, it's the process of starting and understanding how to do that. It takes a while, but everybody does something different. um, when I wrestled through high school, I would have 5 matches a day. You have one in the morning, one a little bit later, and if as you went on, the better you were, the longer you fought for till late afternoon. I would never stay in the place where all the wrestling matches. I would leave and I would go into the hallway where it was quiet. There might be people around, but I didn't see or hear anything. So that was very important for me. I'd put a towel over my eyes. I try to just relax my mind. And then they'd call your name and they gave you a 10-minute window to get ready. And I would go back in, but I couldn't stay there. It was hard to be peaceful there. You're always, when you're around that much energy, it's hard. So I would go out. I found ways of, removing myself for a bit, keep as much peace as I can, and then go back into the chaos. Most recently, for people that follow me and understand that I've last about 15 years, I've been pretty competitive in archery. And that is a sport that just demands focus. There is nothing else than focus and peace and relaxation. And a lot of the tournaments I've competed were high stressful tournaments. They were big championship, provincial championships, national championships. This year it'll be international championships, and I'll be down in the States as well competing. And it really teaches you, I need to be at peace when I shoot. I can't be too happy. I can't be too sad. I can't be angry. I can't be tense. And you start you see clearly what happens when your peace is disrupted. And I'm talking something as simple as I'm driving to a tournament and some idiot cuts me off and it just upsets me. Like, that takes a while to get rid of. You just don't see it. But when I shoot, I see it. I'll see the arrow go away because of the tension that you have. So I really protect my peace. So I drive real early in the morning. I drive like an old person in the right lane. I don't bother anybody. I want to keep my peace completely, like all factors to arrive at where I have to do, as calm as I possibly can be. Now, let's fast forward how people show up to their Systema training. They come from work. It's highly stressful. There's no peace, right? And it's fine. I understand that's life. I do understand that's it. But there are things that you can do throughout your day that can give you moments of peace that maybe might help guide you to remember these things, right? So peace really is a place where you do your best thinking, you perform at your best. And peace is not like, I don't want people to think like, oh, it's we're all sitting under a tree and some Zen stuff. Like, guys, no, like that's not the peace I'm talking about. I'm talking about just, if you look at an emotional scale, you have 10 being maybe super happy and 1 being super sad, okay, or angry, whichever you want to pick. 5 would be right in the middle. So I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm just kind of neutral. That is the place where most of us do our best work. Nobody wants to admit it because it doesn't catch our attention. But so whenever I'm really happy, it's within my control and within I want to be happy. If something makes me happy, of course I'm happy. So when somebody tells me, oh, I've just had a baby, and I'm like, oh, that's so wonderful. So instead of going, oh my God, and just losing my mind, I'm like, I'm happy, and I keep it at about a 6 or 7 in terms. I don't go way up to 10, even though it could warrant it, because emotionally, I know that the higher I go, there will be a down. It's a normal curve, right? So, and we all know people like this in our lives who they ride these emotional waves, right, up and down. The closer to 5 that you can stay. So when things go bad, go to 4. When they go really good, go to 6, right? So what do I say? Congratulations! Oh my God, you've had a baby. That's awesome, but it's a long road. right? It's when I hear bad news, somebody passes away. I'm so sorry about that, right? But we can't live forever, right? This is the life, right? Like you learn how to temper those things so that you're not in extreme. Like we don't. It's within your control to keep that. Of course, be happy, but know how to buffer that. And then what happens is that that flow, like that fluid state of like 6 5 4 6 5 4, it's very predictable, and it's also very calming. I'm always coming back to the middle. And a good example would be driving. Okay, they didn't put a line that you drive on. They put two lines, and they allowed you room to move within those two lines. Because if you put one line and tell somebody to be right in the middle, it causes anxiety always having to be on it. But between two lines, it's quite easy. I'm going to go a little to the right. I go back normally. Guys, everybody listening to this, honestly, how much attention do you give to aiming your car in the middle of the road? Like zero. You just know you float between these two lanes, and it's quite calming, right? It's quite fine, right? This is how we should ride happiness and anger and sad. Like, just it's there. It's within your control to stay in these lanes, and understand that when you go outside of them and you go high up in terms of, and it happens. Of course, it happens. Something can be quite sad or something, of course. But understand it has a rebound effect, and it takes you off of your thing, right? So peace is that middle line. It's not happy. It's not sad. It's right at 5. It's where we do our best work, and I try to stay there as much as I can. So when you're training, of course people will upset you or do something you didn't like or say something you didn't like or bother you some way. Temper it, saying, well, we have some good partners, we have some bad ones. Right? We have some good days, we have some bad days, right? um, and it's it's funny, the way we talk to ourselves is means more than what happened. It's how we said something to ourselves. You can't. Life is full of troubles, and we have to learn how to communicate those troubles in a way that brings us peace, right? So, um, the topic of peace that you're talking about, Elizabeth, is just huge, right? And it has different meaning for everything. Like, not a different meaning, but it means your authentic place where you can do your best work. And if I could share a few stories that before I understood how important this was, I've had the luxury of training at some amazing facilities across Canada where you find the highest level of athletics you could find. And when you watch Olympic athletes training really hard, but so peaceful, it's nothing like the local gym. Nothing. There is no grunting. There is no, like, silliness. It is utter focus and calmness. I need to do something. It's very, very, like, kush, and it's contagious when you're around that stuff. And they always protect themselves from injuries, from all, like, they're always looking out for those things. And that peace to be able to perform at your best must be sheltered. Now, on the other side, I also met some wonderful actors. They're like stage actors, like Shakespearean stuff, and also singers that were like opera singers, not heroes in Europe. I met them, and their day was incredible. I've never seen a day like it. They woke up late. They prayed. It was a whole routine of not engaging with anybody. They didn't talk to anybody. 3 o'clock comes, and they went and they prepared for being on stage. It was a whole, like, their 3 hour play, their 3 hour performance was an 8 hour job to prepare for that 3 hour performance. It was everything from how they slept. No, I don't talk to anybody. No, I don't, like it. They protected that for them to do what they need to do. They need they isolated the entire day. Just recently there was a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays here, and he didn't have as good a normal game as he normally had. So in the interview, they asked him what happened, why you were good but not as good as you normally are, and he said, I only got what did he say? I only got 10 hours sleep instead of 12 hours sleep, which is my normal sleep pattern. I'm thinking 12 hours. I I think everybody at the conference was like 12 hours. Like even the reporters were like, what? And he goes, I know it sounds funny to you guys. He goes, but I'm a pitcher and all eyes are on me. And every pitch can be the difference in a game. And for me, on the days I pitch, I need that's how I rest my mind. And he goes, I just didn't get that sleep. It's fine. Something bothered me. And so I was out of my routine by 2 hours. So then I started thinking to myself, okay, so I normally get 7 hours of sleep. So if I got five, I would be like that. I would be a little off too. So in relation to what he's done, but for that person, peace meant that was a big part of how he attained his peace to be able to pitch. Each of us is going to be unique like that, and we will have our peace in different ways. Some people will like to go for a walk outside. Some people will pray or meditate. Some people will have a different routine that keeps that peace, but everybody should be working on that, right? And then when you find it in like an ideal situation, like just your day-to-day life, then we need to try apply this in martial arts, because I mean, you're gonna walk through some pretty dark places and dark people, and you have to be able to carry your peace with you. It has to go with you, right? I heard somebody describe Systema once as action yoga. I was like, I thought that was awesome. I go, yeah, I guess I could see that, because they're so relaxed from poses, but we're actually like, people are attacking us. So it's like a yoga class that went bad, right? Kind of a thing. It's like, and it's funny because we're laughing, but there are moments where I actually felt that way in other sports where it was like, like some people know I played rugby as a good part of it. That's a pretty physical sport, but there were some games out there where the teams knew each other quite well. We had the players played in other leagues with each other, whether they were on the same team, and it was just this game where everybody somehow knew each other, not in a bad way, in a different way, and the game became like high school gym classes playing each other. It just became this like, you know, goofy, fun, physical, grind your elbow into somebody's back and laugh about it, spit on a guy and just became like WWF. And it was so much fun and so peaceful to have this. So it goes to show you that in many ways you can find peace in even humor, even in fun, and also through some dangerous stuff as well. If you can train yourself to keep it with you, right? Now, a lot of the great teachers we have in Systema obviously are very spiritual, so that is a big part of how they carry. And I as well. That's one of the ways I carry my peace as well. I spend some time with prayer every day, and it's like a light in me. And yes, it's one of the things that I do that I think is important to have something. I don't really care what people do, but I think if you're a person with any big responsibility and in a place where that is a regular occurrence, spirituality usually goes hand in hand. Um, so peace and understanding how to and how to find power in there is important. Is to understand that. So I've tried it out. Like I've been angry and competed, and I knew the result. I've been, maybe not too relaxed, maybe too calm, and realized the errors that happen when you do. That's usually when people injure themselves, right? They're not, And then when you're angry, you tend to you with anger. It's funny. You can actually be quite successful and angry, to be honest with you, even as a fighter. Problem is, it's hard to be dependable. It's very inconsistent results, because anger is an emotional, it's like a chemical reaction, right? Like it's hard to get it right every time, right? It's like I watch some athletes that are drinking sugary drinks, to try replenish stuff. That's a chemical reaction, and it's really hard to get it right every time, right? But peace is quite different. You can get it. and it's very predictable. When I'm at my most peaceful, I clearly can show you in my archery matches how consistent I was. And in fights that I've been in, when I've actually been at peace, I never have any regrets. It's one of few times, like there, when I'm angry, sometimes I'll do stuff that I regret. It has some regrets that come along with the anger. But with peaceful work, when you study how to be like really good but peaceful, very little regrets, very consistent results, and it's just very forgiving place to be, if you know what I mean. Like I remember a long time ago somebody said, I pick my weapons by how forgiving they are to me. Like, so when I'm not that good, this weapon still is okay. And I thought that was a wonderful way of looking at it. Like when I'm at peace, I can still be dangerous. I can still be great at martial arts, and with no regrets. I can stop when I need to stop, and that's always a wonderful attribute. And a good example of this piece is watch that fight with George Foreman and Muhammad Ali, the old one in Africa and Zaire. So here's big George Foreman destroying everybody. Here he is beating on Muhammad Ali for 6, 7 rounds. Finally, Muhammad Ali turns the table, gets him with a good combination. Here's this big man, and he's finally crumbling, but he's falling, but he's not down yet. And there's Muhammad Ali. He could line up another 3 punches and hit this big man, but he didn't. He just sat there and watched him fall like this. And he was so at peace with himself. He knew that this big man was going to fall, and he did exactly what was necessary. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was it said so much about, and again, another very spiritual person as well. He was, I mean, you got to get past his mouth, right? He was an entertainer too. But what makes him great is, to me, it's how at peace he was when he fought. Even though a big guy was beating on him for 7 rounds, like really, I mean, George Foreman he was a bodybuilder. He was huge. He was just, what he was doing to punching bags and warm-ups was, he was caving them in. Like, could you only imagine what that's going to do to your body? And Muhammad Ali took that for 7 rounds. And then finally, he was still at peace when he beat him. We never, that's what made him such a great champion. And I always tell people when they're studying martial arts, try to distinguish between those two things, okay? There is a way to train yourself to become a pretty good intermediate level fighter, and you can just do that with anger and some things like this. But if you start to go at a higher level, it doesn't matter if you're a musician, an artist, a painter, a martial artist, it doesn't matter. If you're going from intermediate to advanced, you better find your peace. You're not going to find it any other way. That level is about creativity. It's about authenticity. You can't do that if you're not peaceful. It just doesn't happen. So what we have is a lot of people making noise at intermediate levels, right?
Yeah.
And rather than, and the people that are at the advanced and mastery levels, they're too busy creating. Right? And you just, that's just how it is, right? So I don't know, I don't mean to go off topic at all, but peace has many different things to me. I can look at peace as an athlete, as a martial artist, as a person. And does that answer some of your questions? Does that help you, or is there something that sticks out that you want to go deeper into?
It does. And what's landing deeper for me is, because it's objective peace, what it is for each person and where they find it. A lot of different things have been coming, and what it reminds me of is like, we're getting clear on what's important to you, because there's that focus, and then finding that internal balance, because that creates a lot of peace, which is, I believe, a big focus of martial arts, is trying to find that internal balance. But also what's coming through is just like, like Muhammad Ali, when he's hitting George Foreman, there's just this absolute presence, and which is like what all the ancient philosophies talk about, that's just being present, which is sometimes a lot harder said than done. but like it's just like it's all interwoven into this topic of peace that I've never really. I'm so glad you're here with me because I've never really considered that different depth. Um, I think what I'd love to ask you next is, so we've got, you've talked about peace in the athletic setting, the martial arts setting. What about like people like with stressful work and, kind of those mental emotional states? Like, what would that look like? Protect your
So,
peace.
okay, great question. So, and some people don't know, I worked at a big corporation for 10 years, and I was upper management. So I understand working at big companies and all that stuff. I do understand the stresses of those things. So again, we want to define peace as a place of not like under a tree. Like we're talking about inaction. So we're at work. I get it. Stuff's going to happen. So we're trying to find peace there. We're not trying to, because when people say that, I want to understand, I want action peace. Like I want peace that you can live your life with. I want you to be able to go. Now, you will never be able to find peace if you don't sit down and write and reflect on why is it that you're doing something. So if you're working at a company, it can very well be that you're there for money. I need to get paid so that I can pay my mortgages and my bills. Of course, no problem. Other times, a little bit of a mixture. Like it's a career, so you want to, this is a career thing for you. It could be because you'd be surprised. Uh, Hospitals are run like businesses these days, right? But a doctor is not. He's not. Doesn't feel like that. He's a profession, right? So there's mixed stuff in there. But if you're really clear on why you're doing something and what matters to you with what you do, then that starts to define, because you have to be clear. You have to make those clear to say. And the same in Systema training. Why do you want to come? Like, so ask yourself, why am I showing up? Are you there? Is it something that just you feel will benefit your life? Is it there because it's a professional thing, like you're maybe military or security guard of some sort? Are you there because you're bored of your life? Is it something to kind of give you some sort of something? Why are you there? Are you there to get healthy? Are you there to lose weight? Are you there to get stronger? Are you there to get healthier? Are you there to learn how to protect? What are you there for? And make sure you remember why you're there. That doesn't mean you can't change, but why are you there? And make sure that that box is always ticked. Okay. Where people go wrong with their pieces, they try to apply um, themselves in things that they cannot control, right? You got to make that distinction. What can I control about training? Or what I can control that I show up. I can control, like, those are the, I can't control which partner I'm going to have. I can't control what topic's going to be taught. I can't control all, like, people get upset because they're trying to control things that are way out of their control, way out of their control. And when you let that go, you become peaceful. That it's because you're trying to predict something, or you want something. So most people that are who truly find peace fully know what's within their control and fully know what's not in their control. I can't control what people will say about me, right? I can't control the weather. I understand, I could look at the weather forecast and try to predict, but I mean, ultimately, I can't predict it that much. Same in martial arts, people training because they want to try to predict what somebody else will do, but that never happens, right? So be clear about what it is that you want. If it's for money, it's for money, and accept that. Say, okay, I'm here because it pays my bills, and that's it. Okay, great. So I can so for me, it's a stressful job. Okay, so when the stress comes, I can't control that part. That part, if somebody's yelling, I mean, I'm not sure if I told you, but I worked in the cell phone industry when it was brand new. And I'm talking when I still remember people calling up. I used to answer phones. So when people got a brand new cell phone and they bought it, they would call me. Okay. So there was when I was started in this business, there was only 50 people in Toronto that were answering the phones, explaining how to use your cell phone. By the time I left 10 years later, it was 10,000. So
Wow.
just to give you an idea of how cell phones look. So cell phones were the size of a brick. They only made, not sorry, they were the size of a suitcase. They made uh, just phone calls, no texts, no internet, no nothing, just phone calls. And I still remember people calling and yelling at me because they were upset that they had to press the send button. Why do they have to press send? It's not like their home phone. Everything was compared to their home phone. The call hung up on me. Well, no, it's a wave. It's an analog wave. It got cut off. Oh, is that going to happen all the time? It'll happen once in a while. And people would be yelling at you. I can't control that the person yelled at me. He wants to yell at somebody. He's got to yell at me. I can only control how I will respond. And I saw people do that job, because you have to remember here, Liz, I answered 10 calls an hour, 8 hours a day. That's 80 calls a day. I would say 80 to 90% yelled at me. So my entire day was people yelling at me. Okay, so think of it. That was my job, yelling. And it was like that job taught me so much about people yell. Look for the 1-2 words. Try to figure out what it is that they're yelling about, and then solve it as fast as you can. But don't get caught up on the yelling, because I can't control that, right? Now, when people say protect your peace, first know why you're doing something, and then understand what you fully can control. Don't try to control things that you can't control. That's it, straight out. It's straight. That's one of the simplest ways to understand your peace. And I see it all the time when I ask questions to students. I'll say, ask them a question and they'll give me an answer right away. When people answer right away, they're basically, this is a sign that they're not really listening to the question. A proper way to answer, if somebody asks you a question that's very, especially a simple one, is to say, so am I happy? The honest response would be, yeah, I'm good, right? That would be the honest one. Some people would say, that's an interesting question. I'm going to think about it for a while. There's many different levels to happiness. And we come to realize that answering a question quickly is just like a to-do list. Let's get it done, but with no great detail, right? When I ask myself questions, I give myself at least a week to answer it, because the answer will change. And then I finally get the right one, right? I finally kind of get the right answer as to what it is. And these simple ones are very good. So a good practice of minimalism, because we usually have too much in our lives for us to even see where the problems are. So get rid of things that you don't need in your life. It can be physical things like clothing, just so you can see what's in your closets. Get rid of old thinking. It doesn't serve you anymore. It was of value to you, right? It was of value to you 10 years ago. It is not of value to you now. Get rid of it, right? Clear your mind, make room, actively get rid of stuff, because people hoard books on their shelves and hundreds of books. And for what? You've read it. Did you read it? Maybe in most cases didn't even read it, right? So a good practice of getting rid of throwing stuff out is not so you're not a hoarder. It's so that you make room for new knowledge, right? By getting rid of stuff. And then a good practice of journaling, which is just writing every day, just writing about what's on your mind and where your mind is at. And you realize maybe you're not at peace, because when you're at peace, you write quite nicely, right? You reflect quite nice. So I always have had a practice of trying different things and writing about them, and trying to get rid of stuff that doesn't serve me. And I can change. It makes me change quite easily, and it gives me great peace, which peace to me translates into creativity, translates into happiness, translates. So when people watch me, when I'm training, they're saying, how did you see that? Or how did you know that? I said, because I'm at peace, I can see what's happening, and it was many great mentors in my life have had those same attributes, right? So for people listening, let's try to get some solid anchor points when we're trying to investigate peace. And the anchor points would be, why are you doing something? And if you don't know, take a week and think about it. Like, are you really coming to martial arts to kick somebody's ass? If you are, that's fine. But take a second, right? So watch this. So you see people training all the time, and they're doing these kind of dangerous moves, right? Like they're pretending that the person is an attacker, and you know, and I'm the hero, they're the attacker, so I'm gonna put them down, right? Well, and people look at that and think that's quite normal. I said, okay, so imagine if I went to class and I said, if I grabbed somebody and I just held them and I started dancing with them and said, well, I just want to practice some dancing with you. And they'd be like, that's weird. Oh, that's weird, but that's not weird. Why don't instead, when you attack me, I study how to deal with you as a good person and make you stronger? Would that not give me more peace? Would that not let me when people, is that not a higher level of martial arts? Is somebody that's angry at you, dealing with them and making them better? Is that not, I don't know, seems to me like that's the work I've always seen Vlad do. That's always the work I've seen Michael do, are the great teachers. That's all I've ever seen them do, is make somebody that attacks them in training and make them see where their problems are so they can become better. Never pretended you'd be an assailant. I never felt that once, but yet they hit me very hard, right? So these ideas have to start to morph into different things. I want to deal with real things. I don't want to pretend people are attacking me. I want somebody to do something to me, punch, kick, grab, whatever they want, as who they are, and let me try and make you a better person. Let me try and make you a better, stronger, happier person with my application of martial arts. That I love to do. And you've seen it firsthand, right? And so these kind of ideas of peace touch on the spirit, they touch on the mental, and they touch on the physical, right? But most people are looking for just a physical explanation, but it comes from mind, body, spirit. It comes from all that connection. And if you're not touching on all three of those, you're nowhere. You're definitely not at a high level. You'll be at a lower and a beginner intermediate level. And if that's where you want to be, that's fine. But don't wonder why you're not able to touch those proficient levels. Right? Proficient levels, you have to be a great peace. You have to be at great peace with yourself. You know.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good incentive for all the people training. And for those that aren't Systema based, you had mentioned Vladimir and Mikhail, and well, Mikhail has just passed, but Vladimir is currently, I guess, the instructor in Systema, or the head instructor, to my knowledge. Yeah. It brings up, I guess, just kind of, wrapping this up, one of the other things I'm taking away, as a reason to want to cultivate this peace that we're talking about is just the, like the mental clarity, like you talked about, like, possibly getting rid of more physical stuff. And I think to myself, like, in my own growth and journey, how comfortable certain feelings or mental states or even objects had become. It's almost like they become a part of you. But then, like, as time goes, it's like, cultivating like this peace and this like internal balance, how it gets easier. And then it kind of gets easier to change and be, what's the word? Is like plasticity in the brain, like when the brain really, you can mold your thoughts and your feelings. So just for that clarity's sake, to cultivate.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so much can come of it. Like again, peace to me is the place where we do our best work. And that's not just like that is like the best work, period. I'm talking basketball player, martial artist, archer. That's peace is the closest to who you are that you can be. That when you're at peace with yourself, like that there's no better moment. Like there's everything like drips off of you. Things don't stick to you. Bad things come, but you're at peace with yourself. You're like, I'm okay. Like I look at people that when they're doing something silly, and I'm like, I'm okay. I've done that before. I'm good. I'm good now. I got that out of my system. I'm not going down that road again. And it's like it's a laughter. It's because I know clearly what brings me peace now in my life. It's it's working with great details in everything I do. The more detail I can work, whether it's breathing, whether it's archery, whether it's Systema, whether it's teaching, whether it's training, it's as much detail, food, my healing, my sleep. Oh, like, you know, every, like, more details you see, you start to become more at peace. And it's so beautiful, but it takes time. And I just tell people, start slow. You know, like, there's this idea that people rush through life because they want it all. And I'm like, what, why do you want it all? Do you want it all, really? And, you know, and I gave you that example before about a buffet. I go, you can have it all at a buffet. You really don't feel happy afterwards, do you? Why the hell would you want it all? Is my question, right?
All
You
right now.
know,
Yeah, come
yeah,
back
like, take
later.
your time. Yeah, like, just, but enjoy it is all I'm saying. Is it should, like, when I'm learning, I find little bits of information. I'm happy for weeks with little bits, and I see people that get big chunks and they're still not happy. But that's the problem. Like, everything that you change has an effect, and if you don't take the time to appreciate, how will you know what caused the effect? Like, the more moving things you add, the more things can go wrong, and you're not able to find out what was good or what was bad for you, right? One of the nice things about fasting and cleaning your diet out is that when you introduce foods again, you can really see the effect on your body. You can see how, whether it gave you energy or it upset your stomach, you can see it. But when you're just eating all kinds of stuff, you don't know what caused the problem. You don't know what caused the problem or what it was. So peace really is the place where we're the closest and the most authentic we are. And we know we found it because it's like we go through life differently. We didn't upset people. When I'm at peace, I see other people at peace. I'm like, you're at peace. One time I remember I went into this store, and the clerk was sitting down so peacefully eating their lunch. And it was a small store, and I had just walked in. Kind of snuck in, but I came in very casually. And as soon as they noticed me, they jumped up. I said, please sit down. Please sit down. Don't disrupt your peace. Eat your lunch. I'm fine. If there's anything, I'll come and ask you. Right. And it was like, and the person stood up, and he wanted to respond with something else, but he looked at me. He says, no, this is a person that's at peace too. And he understands what it means. He sat down, he finished his lunch. And it was just, when you have it, you don't want to bother other people with it. And when you see people without it, you want to slow them down and say, find your peace. What makes you happy? This happened one time in a seminar with Michael. It was really funny. It's very common in Systema seminars. We do a lot of breathing exercise. Well, Michael added a lot of breathing at the very end. And this one guy fell asleep, but out cold, like snoring. Like he was out. He was out and snoring. Everybody just, at first chuckled, but then we left it. And then he said, okay, everybody stand up. He was still asleep. And Michael just gave us, don't wake him up. Leave him. He goes, his body needed to sleep. So we literally did the whole circle, talked, had a full conversation while this guy slept. And then he eventually woke up, and he was the happiest. He needed sleep. Like, he's at peace. He wasn't at peace through the whole class because he was so bound up. And finally, when he did some breathing, his body let go and he fell asleep. That's what he wanted. He was at peace. Why would you bother him? Why would you bother a person? Don't bother him, I feel the same with punches. We're punching each other, and people, you see that their body has taken the strikes and they're at peace. But why people keep punching? For what? He's at peace. What do you want from the punches if he's happy, right? So that's it. That's these questions might be too much for some people, or maybe some people listening to this might say, what the hell are we talking about? I felt like that at one time too, believe it or not. And then the first time I finally felt that peace, I really did want this. And I realized how well I performed in competition. I realized how repeatable it was, and how much of a better way of life it was to approach it like this. I understand that anger and other flashy things cause lots of attention, and it's exciting, but it's not a good way of living. These extremes are not very good, right? And you can see this clearly in comedians in our society. A lot of comedians commit suicide. And that's because so that's when you like this, you understand that these extremes, right? They're not at peace, you know. Peace is not 10, it's 5. It's not always joking, always sad. It's these, try to be in the middle, and it's your best work that you'll do in that place. And when it hit me, I said, this is the way I want to be, you know. And that's one of the reasons I took up archery 15 years ago, is because that sport punishes you with emotion. You cannot, you have to be at 5. There is no way you can be happy or sad. You have to be neutral, and you shoot your best. And that's, you know, I haven't shared this with people. That's why I started archery. It wasn't because I was bored of my martial art. It's because I knew there was something, but I needed to see it outside to bring it back in. And that's what it is. And it's the best thing I ever did. And it's changed my Systema in so many beautiful ways, you know. And then when you find peace, just understand people won't like you too much because they don't have it. Yeah, they don't have it, so they're upset with you. But it's okay.
Yeah. Like projecting, like, oh, that person shouldn't be peaceful because I'm not peaceful.
Yeah, and I can tell you this before we go quickly. This happened to me. That's one of the reasons I left my job at the phone company was a meeting with my vice president, and he said I had a big team. I was managing 60 people, and I had a great team. They truly loved me. They were great with me. But my VP said to me, "You're so happy, you're so relaxed when you walk around the office. It seems like you must not be doing your job if you're doing this, because all the other managers are stressed, but you walk around so happy. So are you doing?" And I'm just looking at them. I said, "You mean to tell me you you're wondering why I'm happy?" So instead of saying, how can they be like me, you're asking me that I'm somehow not doing my job, but clearly knew I was. And I said, so that was the sentiments back in 2000. That was a long time ago. And I still don't believe companies are I believe they're pretty disingenuous when they talk about work-life balance. I think they say these funny words, but it's not necessarily the case that I see, right? You don't rely on anybody but yourself to find your peace. You create it. You create it yourself, and you take it with you all the time. Don't let anybody else create your peace. Get to know what you like. Get to know the way you like it. Get to know the places. And you know who knows this really is our parents. They know when we're happy. And that's what I told my kids. I don't care what you do in your life, but I know when you're happy. And when you're happy, I'm happy. I mean, I don't want you to worry. That is, and as a teacher teaching students, it is that I'm looking for. When I watch you fight, when I watch you training, I want to see you happy. Otherwise, you're not being an artist. You're just, it's not that. If you're a musician and you're on stage, I want to see that you love to be on that stage playing your guitar, singing your song. I don't want you to be anything else. If you're not, stop doing it. Stop doing it. There's no point, right? And this is the most important thing. So, big topic. I hope we touched on it a little bit. Hope we touched on it in a good way. Yeah, so many memories of peace in my life. So I hope I shared some of them with everybody.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and these juicy tidbits. And yeah, go to our websites if you want to find out more about us.
Yeah.
Thank you
any other topics that come up.
Yeah.
We're more than happy to talk more about them with you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.